So another unusual survey. Here the ground floor timber had been removed, which is great because then I can see the subfloor void, and actually it's a good opportunity to talk about the way buildings, these Victorian buildings were constructed with suspended timber floor with joists and subfloor ventilation. In this property, the subfloor ventilation had been removed and the patio outside had been built up. There was sort of a strange sort of drainage system, best way of putting it, to the side, and there was clearly way too much vapour entering the subfloor and not enough ventilation in it. Ventilation is there in case moisture enters the subfloor. If you don't have moisture entering the subfloor, you don't need the ventilation, but if you do, then you need the ventilation. It will have a cooling effect, so it's worth thinking about insulation. Let's have a look at the survey now, and we'll talk again at the end. But this property has penetrating damp, a risk of hygroscopic salts, and poor ventilation, and it was tenanted, so therefore the tenants were unlikely to be looking after the ventilation properly. Have a listen to the survey. So in the cupboard, this is the only definite sign of water penetrating through. It's actually not as damp as elsewhere. It's damper there. It would be nice to see the other side of this. You've got electrical wire going through here, and the dampness is in line with where the electrical wire is, suggesting it's actually condensation forming, but that may be because there's dampness within the cupboard. The other side. So it's in the corner there on the left hand side. They've got a boiler there. I wonder whether their boiler's leaking. I couldn't get into the neighbour's side, which I like to do. Flowing rainwater water pipe there, because you're seeing water on there. You've got some plants growing up there. So on the other side of the wall, we have got render cracks. Well, there's new render, it's cracked there, and there's a join between the two. There's a pipe here, overflowing. I mean, this bit of plastic is not necessarily good. There's a render crack there. That needs to be filled. And doesn't look like it's in good order around here. That's okay. Yeah, and then this isn't in great order. I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't. That looks like it's something can overflow there. Oh, and right up at the top, there's some issues. I'd say, and that doesn't look clever. Okay. In the void, should I say. So looking in, we'll see lots of dampness. There's no real space for airflow. So clearly condensation taking place there. So high subfloor vapour can cause condensation to form on the damp-proof course, and it rises up just like rising damp. There could be some woodworm that you need to be concerned about. Okay. This is looking through a thermal imaging camera, but it's unheated indoors, so you can't necessarily tell much. Have a quick look on the outside. Oh, there are hygroscopic salts, yeah. Yeah, they look like hygroscopic salts.
Okay.
Yep. Very easy ways to determine. So it's damp all on this wall here. It's getting drier, so it's at the base of the wall there. This is dry lined, so it's a form of damp proofing. So it's not damp there. You can see condensation on the pipes down there, because they're cold. Yeah, it's damp there. Just to say that water can get in there. Also there's a crack here and it appears to have been painted. This is dry lined and it is damp here. So if we look in underneath, we'll see, I'll put the light on. So this is, it's normal levels of water. Oh. Below there, higher. This is using a surface version. So this is obviously in the area that was damp above. We use there. So the floor was taken up a couple of weeks ago, or
This one
recently.
we took up like yesterday.
So on the inside it looks quite dark there and damp, and there's no ventilation, subfloor ventilation there. You want to create through flow ventilation. So there would have originally been a subfloor vent there, but the ground has been built up. You can create an air flow by putting in a pipe and having an inline fan blow air out. Okay. So I'll describe that more in the video. Everything onto video, so then you can focus rather than have to remember. So if there's no subfloor ventilation, it means you've got no airflow through, and these floors are designed for airflow. And you'll see that there's insulation that's trapping the airflow through there. So if you get any moisture in here, it will just condense, and it will condense on top of the damp-proof course, and it will create rising damp-like conditions or symptoms. You've obviously getting moisture through from the outside, so we'll have a look at that, and that's probably to do with insufficient drainage. On the face of it, it could be just this vapour coming in and not going out through the air bricks. Thing about the air bricks is they're only necessary if you've got dampness. If you don't have dampness, then you don't need air bricks. So they're not necessary to have airflow, but the modern way of dealing with it is to monitor the subfloor humidity and increase and decrease ventilation as you require it, and plus look at any other sources of dampness. So I'm going to check the mains water, because we've got the mains water running through here, and we'll just see whether there's any loss of pressure on the mains water pipe. So I'll do that now. The floor is up. When you lay the floor back down again, and I think I would probably recommend a suspended timber floor again.
Floorboards,
but what you want to do is just keep access and just be able to check. Just monitor with hygrometer, which is measuring humidity, relative humidity, or use a data logger. But you want to be able to look in under the floorboards and just see if there is high humidity, you run a risk of getting rot. And obviously you want to have the ventilation, which I would have a system where you can increase and decrease, and it may be necessary to put in an extra fan that you can control.
Good idea.
But I'll have a look at that. The water isn't draining away from this; it's completely blocked. Oh, so it's actually draining out. So it's perforated essentially. But that just means that what is happening is the rainwater it's not a huge amount of rainwater coming down there, but it's it's just flowing on the ground. I mean, the easiest thing to do is just push it out onto the street.
Yeah, we wanted to. Yeah, this.
Oh, so you have got the air vents, but they're just not open to the inside.
No, we put a torch through it yesterday and tried to see light. We couldn't. My dad could see like concrete behind it.
It's been damp proofed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not much you can do about that now, but yeah, it doesn't really work. So this is, well, it's not really a French drain in the classic sense of it. It's a drain.
Okay.
And I don't know where so the water. So the rainwater is going from there.
Yeah.
But actually, because it's blocked, it's probably not going anywhere. And it's probably coming through these taped up pipes. I mean, it's actually running uphill, I would say.
It literally just stops there.
Yeah.
Into that concrete.
So if you pour water in, does it actually come out?
I haven't tried it.
I doubt it. This is called a periscopic air vent, and it goes into the wall and then down and out and around, but it's been blocked up. So it'll be quite easy to unblock it. You know where it is. You can work out where the opening is and then just unblock it. But I think you'll need some extra ventilation just to dry out the subfloor, because unless you keep it open for a long time.
No,
but
yeah, we need it because these windows as well, they don't let out much ventilation, even because, well, they're very good for insulation.
They have trickle vents, but you can. Well, I wouldn't worry too much about that. I'll show you a few tricks.
Maybe like a power assisted fan.
In the subfloor, it's worth thinking about that. There's some very inexpensive ways of doing it, but what you want to do is keep access. You've got a raised patio here, so there's no ventilation
we could
there.
remove this. Like my dad, he could remove this concrete, and that's what we're planning on doing, and maybe creating an air vent. I don't know if it's possible. Maybe.
I think it's going to be tricky. We can have a look a bit more at that.
Okay.
This is a simple way to test if you've got a mains water leak. Just turn it on and then allow it to overflow, and then turn the main stopcock off. And we get 90 degrees on that. That should be off. This one's the whole way round, so let's turn it. There we go. Tight. So if there's a suck back, then that tells me there's a leak. But at the moment it seems fine. But I give it about 10-15 minutes, just see if there's much change. The kitchen extractor fan is just recycling type, doesn't remove any vapor anyway. Bathroom fan is good. I'll see if I can improve it further. A survey like this is a huge amount to think about, and to an extent I have to throw the kitchen sink at it. Okay. It doesn't mean that every single recommendation I make is absolutely necessary. So I do it in two sections. I do the ones that I think you need to do, and if all else fails, the next ones that you need to do. But the purpose of doing that is that I can't possibly understand all the potential sources of damp when it's been a vacant property for a long time, when the floorboards have been lifted up, and when there's clearly so much wrong with the property in terms of the way that the external water has been taken away. And also, I would imagine that a property like this is going to have really poor ventilation. And I'm going to check that out. And I recommend you do that as your starting point, because if you get the internal ventilation right, then most of the damp issues will disappear. Having said that, the subfloor ventilation you have to treat the subfloor as a separate part of the building, and it has to have its own ventilation. It has to have its own monitoring, and the risks to the property are much greater from the subfloor than they are from the rest of the place. You can get rot, and that's the biggest concern, really. and you're lucky not to have any rot so far because there's obviously a lot of vapour. But
it was this that looked a bit quite thin.
yeah, well, but also I'm seeing that there's a lot of signs that the floor has in the past been replaced in places.
It was chipboard here. The old floorboards were in the bedroom, but that's about it. The rest is all this.
But it suggests to me that there has been rot in the past.
Yeah.
Which and most of the time they don't deal with the root cause. So, for instance, the damp proofing treatment on the outside tells me that there has been a problem that hasn't been dealt with.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to test the ventilation and I'm going to test out the walls to see where the dampness is. So, in summary, you should start with the subfloor and the external drainage. Make sure that all the rainwater is draining away from the property. Measure the humidity in the subfloor and put in access to the subfloor. Make sure that there's good through flow, that's from front to back. The insulation may get in the way. I would be putting insulation into the subfloor, but probably PIR type insulation that is jammed in and held underneath the floorboards, and then allow the airflow underneath that. I probably would have, given that it's open, I would put the electrics in place to put in mechanical ventilation into the subfloor using an inline fan. I'll put everything in the report. You want to open up the air bricks to the front and the rear. And as I say, have access certainly to the front, but possibly also to the back. Then you can check for humidity and rot, and obviously keep monitoring the subfloor humidity. So for the penetrating damp, there was the area to the corner, to I think to the side of your kitchen, on the external render to the left of the property, rear left. There were some render cracks there. There's also the greenery growing at the top of the wall, which I don't think necessarily affect you, but it's a freehold, the freehold element. So deal with the render cracks, and you'll need to have your owner's permission, the next door neighbour's permission, the owner's there. Deal with the ventilation, put in a kitchen extractor fan. It's externally ducted from the kitchen hood is what I would advise, and you can often go through the ceiling, or you can have the hood on the other side of the room. Personally, I think for any property that's a ground floor flat, you should be considering a continuous flow bathroom extractor fan, a continuous flow bathroom extractor fan, but the current one does work. You need to make sure it has a 30-minute overrun, or keep the light on for 30 minutes. So those are the key things. Dry and close internally, use a dehumidifier, keep the internal dew point below the external temperature by using a dehumidifier and targeted extraction. And you should be fine. There is the potential for hygroscopic salts. I'll give you a link to a property where you have hygroscopic salts. It makes it easier to recognise. They only need to be covered with an oil-based primer, nothing major. It's better not to cover them unless you need to. And so I do everything first, and they're not a source of water, so they're not causing mold or rot or anything. They're just annoying, decorative spoiling, if you like. So you can leave those until later on, and if you find next summer that you are getting dampness in the corner and it's light, then use the Zinza cover stain primer. Okay, well, good luck, and do leave any comments. Thank you very much, and do subscribe as well. Thanks. Bye.